Hey everyone, Jerisha Hawk here. If you are new to me, I am an income strategist and I really help individuals gain the clarity and confidence that they crave so they can start selling their services online and converting clients more consistently. And this has really been heavy on my heart. Today at church, I was leaving out and I had sparked up a conversation with one of the individuals there. We were talking about my business and talking about kind of where she's at right now in her job and where she's like really just unsatisfied, unfulfilled, just feeling kind of stuck. Like she has this desire to want to be able to create, like she wants to be able to give at a larger capacity to the people that she cares about. But she's like, I'm like strapped right now in my own job and in my own life. Like it's really difficult for me to give when I'm not even fully comfortable myself. And it spiraled into this idea of when you think about so many of us, have these entrepreneurial knacks, right? Like we have, even though we may have a job, we may have a career, we may, for the few of us who actually like fully actually enjoy and love the work that we do in our 9-to-5, there's a part of us that, maybe we're not being able to express all of our gifts and talents inside of our cubicle. So we look externally and we look at these other opportunities to create additional streams of income. But also because we know we have this multitude of gifts, we have this desire to want to express those gifts when we're not able to fully do it in our job sometimes. So I think a lot of us have these entrepreneurial tendencies where we have these desires to, use the gifts that God has given us to be able to go and create change and make impact, earn additional income so we can even give at a larger scale, or just, contribute to society in a larger capacity than what we're currently able to do. But the one thing that, we were having this conversation that really, I think hit the nail on the head is that our job, our corporate position did not prepare us for entrepreneurship. Like your 9-to-5 job or the job that you're in right now really is not like grooming you to be your own boss. They may be grooming you to be a boss within their organization, under their guidelines, under their restrictions, under their parameters, but they are not grooming you to be your own boss. And I think that's a huge thing that a lot of us need to recognize. Like, I think there's one thing, if you're a really, really, really good employee, meaning that, maybe you've gone the route of, I think some like the more higher demand like degrees, like I think being an engineer is like really tough. I'll just use myself as an example. Like, you go to school, schooling takes 4 to 5 years on average to be able to get your degree. You have to take Calc 1, 2, 3 and DIFI-Q as prereqs. Like it takes a lot of grit and stamina just to get through the rigorous like academic education that you have to get to even like qualify yourself as an engineer. But then from there, like once you get into the workforce, like you're just solving like really complex problems as an engineer. And even though I was a really good engineer, like those skill sets of being able to stick with something, even though it was hard, like I remember having like college like homework assignments where it took us over a week to solve one problem and we still got it wrong, but we still had to show up and like, keep fighting the good fight to try to figure out the problem. And it was stressful and there was like long nights and lots of tears and what have you. And I think that's just one part of the entrepreneurial journey. So I think that's a huge thing. Like, I think the educational system, to a degree, I think it prepares us to be good citizens. I think it prepares us to like have the grit and stamina to stick with something long enough to actually get that piece of paper, which I think is just half of the battle when it comes to like what it takes to be an entrepreneur. But I just think that a lot of us, I think the reason why we have a difficult time trying to transition into building our own business or transition into running our own business is because a lot of us are showing up trying to build our business with this employee mindset. We're trying to show up and build this business with this mindset and with this belief system that, I have to build my business based off the guidelines of what other people are telling me I have to do, or I have to build my business based off of these parameters or based off of do X, Y, Z. And then if I do X, Y, Z, I will automatically get this amazing output of my business is successful and is making money. And that's just not how it works. So I think a lot of us are looking for permission and looking for approval from outside things of other people we've deemed to be successful, other influencers or successful business owners to tell us and to give us that affirmation that like that I can build my business the way that I want to build it, how I want to build it. But I think too many of us are looking for that, like putting too much weight onto operating our business inside of this confinement, because that's what we're used to experiencing in our job. So I just think like the number one thing that we must believe if we ever want to be our own boss, like first and foremost, is just because like something doesn't work out the first time, like doesn't mean that we're a complete failure, that it didn't, like that it's not possible for it to happen. And I think like if you're not willing to build your own table, you'll never become your own boss. So many of us are waiting for somebody to pull out a chair and allow us to have a seat at the table. And you hear when I said allow us to have a seat at the table, rather than like, you know, and I looked this up earlier, like at all the individuals, I think who I really view as, I think just the individuals of excellence in our time, the people who've been able to do something and not just like hit the ball out of the park one time or for a couple of years, but they've you know, been able to really achieve like long-term excellence in their career. All of them had these immense failures and all these roadblocks throughout their career, where people were shutting the doors on them or were not, you know, giving them the seat at the table. But they had to just, if the system wasn't giving them the seat at the table, they went out and created their own table. So like, for example, like Jay-Z, he was turned down by a record label. Like he said, he went to every single record label and they were like, no, this dude is terrible. And Jay-Z, I think, is like one of the greatest rappers like of our time. Or you look at Oprah, like she was pulled off air and demoted in her role. But like, look at who Oprah is today. You know, Stephen King, the author, I loved reading his books growing up. His first book was rejected by 30 publishers. Like all of these individuals, Michael Jordan, he was cut from his high school basketball team. Like many of these people were not, like they looked to the authority, the quote unquote person that we gave we viewed and believed that they were the ones in authority to be able to tell us what we could not have access to. And if all these individuals, like they were not given a seat at the table when they were like, you know, trying to start and get started in their craft that they're known for now of excellence. So instead, I think the number one thing you must believe, and I say believe and not so that you must do or that you must think, but you really need to believe this, is that like just because somebody else is not willing to give you a seat at the table, like you have to have the courage and the belief to be able to say, you know what, like bump that, I'm going to go make my own table. And I think a lot of the time our jobs do not prepare us to be able to, I think, to believe or to think to that capacity. Like I remember when I was like, you know, working, I loved my career, making great money. Like it took me probably about 1.5 years before I actually believed that it was possible that I'd be able to sustain my lifestyle and enhance the quality of my lifestyle doing something on my own. Why? Because I was always taught that, you know, you got to go get a good job, get a good degree, you know, find somebody who's going to like, you know, I'm looking at my boss thinking that it's dope that I'm getting a 3% raise every year. And it's just like when I look at that, because that's the parameters of my belief were so limited before. So I think a lot of us, because I was letting somebody else define what my seat at the table could be. So I think, again, I'm harping on this because you have got to actually believe that you are willing and that you are able to go create your own table if there is access right now is not currently giving to you where you are, okay? And I was doing, one of my good girlfriends actually sent me an article earlier this morning from USA Today, and they were sharing some statistics about the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics report the average tenure of employees is only 4 years. That means within 4 years, you're either going to be fired, pushed out, or you're going to jump ship on your own to go start another job. But it's also true even for entrepreneurship. They say full-time entrepreneurs, they have a tenure also of not much more than 4 years, meaning that our business model will change or our idea will change, or we will sell a business and then go create another one. So I think that lets us know that, and I think it also, like when I read that, it was one, like, how are you making sure that you have career like stability? Because you know in the next 4 years, you're probably either going to lose your job, get fired from your job, get pushed out of your job, or either stall out in your job. And I don't think any of us that typically like hang around with the Hawk Hustle Squad like want that. Like we aspire to have more. But I think it's like how are you making sure that you're preparing yourself to either go create your own table or just give yourself flexibility by having multiple streams of income? And I think the best business model to start with in the world of entrepreneurship is consulting. And I truly, truly believe this because I think a lot of us will try to start these business models, like go and make a t-shirt line or go and create a digital course or go in, want to build a bakery, which I'm not knocking any of those business model ideas, but I think like all of those things require a decent amount of capital and upfront like time, attention, and capacity. Versus if you want to say, I think the best business model for you to actually start generating real revenue, for you to actually replace your salary in a short period of time without having to exude a bunch of external effort is by actually starting with consulting. Like starting selling services and starting with consulting, whether you're freelancing or doing done for you services, mainly because there's such a low cost barrier to entry for you to get started. With a lot of these other things, you need software, you need fancy websites, you maybe need stock and inventory. Like let's say like you're trying to write a book, which I think is great. You have to like actually write the book and then start selling the book. And then you need to be responsible for shipping the book and like dealing with customer orders and like all of that. Or like I had my very first business with a clothing brand. So I had a manufacturer out of Thailand. It took a long time to find a decent manufacturer. And then as I'm getting these clothes shipped to and from me, I was now responsible for like handling that inventory, shipping that inventory. And like, it was just there's just a lot of things that go into building those businesses. Versus if you actually start with consulting or selling your services first, like really all you need is a phone number, an email, and you can get started with like serving and selling. Like it's just a very, very low barrier to entry. And so that's why I'm just a huge, huge, huge believer in that. So as you guys are watching, like definitely pop in the comments, say, hey, I know a few of you guys are watching live right now. Any questions that come up, like definitely pop that in as we're going. But I really believe that the best business model to get started with is actually consulting or coaching or freelancing, offering a service. And so many of my clients are still working their 9 to 5 and are making, $1,000 a month, $3,000 a month, $6,000 a month, $10,000 a month by being able to just work with 2 or 3 clients in a month. And when you're still working your 9 to 5, you only have so much like additional time and energy available to you after you've given 40, 50 hours a week to another entity, like spent time with your friends and family, like went to bed. There's only so much capacity. So I really believe like what's the best way for you to maximize that amount of capacity that you currently have available so you can actually start generating money, and then you can use that money to then like reinvest in your business or go start that second stream of income, that other type of business model that maybe you really do aspire to have. So that's I'm a huge, huge, huge believer in that. And then finally, like how do you actually get started and pick your niche? And I think this is something that a lot of us struggle with, like with being able to identify and determine, okay, Jay, I have this business idea, or like I know that I have these gifts that I really haven't been expressing or showcasing to the world, but I really don't know where to get started. Like I don't know like how to start, at least just get the ball rolling and just start testing out some of my ideas so I can even see like which one of those, maybe has some legs to it where I can double down. And this is my best piece of advice that I can probably give for those who are, thinking about it, but not really sure where to begin, or maybe they've got started, but they don't know if that niche is the best. So definitely pull out your pen and paper and like jot this stuff down. Or if you're catching this in the replay, pause and go through this. But I think first and foremost is like, when you think of consulting, I want you to think about like, what are all the things that currently now people come to you asking like, hey, can you help me with this? Like maybe people are like, Jay, can you help me review my resume? Like that's a service that you could provide. Or, you're really dope at interior design. Can you come over my crib and design my space? That is a service that you could provide. So I want you to make a list of just all the ideas that you can think of a service that you could provide. So like, what are you, just naturally now really, really good at, or the people that naturally come to you for, or that you're constantly getting praised about? I just want you to do a brain dump of all the different things that you could be doing, offering as a coach or a consultant, okay? So that's the first thing. I just want you to do a brain dump of all the different things that you could be doing. And after you've done that brain dump, I want you to circle 3 of those things that are really appealing to you. So there needs to be, I want to like say this with an apostrophe here, because there needs to be things that you enjoy doing or would find joy out of doing, but they're also the thing that you would be selling as a consultant or as a service. It needs to be solving somebody else's problem. So do not forget that aspect. Like just because you enjoy doing it, it is great, but is it actually solving somebody else's problem? So I want you to circle the top 3 that actually, are solving somebody else's problem that you think that you could do. And then from there, I want you to start reading the top 10 blog articles in your niche. So I need you to get familiar with what people are currently now talking about in your industry. What information is currently being published? Like what resources are already available for your niche that people are using right now to solve that problem. So I want you to get familiar with what the top 10 blog posts that are being discussed about in your industry. And buzzsumo.com is a really good resource to go check out to help you find those blog articles. Second thing here is what are the most popular posts? So based off these blog articles you're reading, I want you to scroll down and look at the comments that people are saying. What are the most what are the most popular things you're hearing people say? Are you seeing people go off on rants and go off on tangents? Are you seeing a lot of comment and feedback on a particular comment or on a particular post? I want you to get familiar with that because those are potential clients. They're literally giving you their pain. They're expressing their pain. And that's something once you understand not only the industry, but then you also understand the type of clientele that you be dealing with in that industry, and you start understanding their mindset and understanding their true pain points, that will help you craft and develop a better service. From there, I want you to look at the top 10 books in your niche. I'm not saying you need to go read all of these books, but I need you to know what's familiar, who the industry leaders are. And then I want you to go on Amazon and look at those top 10 books in your niche. And again, read the reviews. Because if somebody took the time to write a review, they either loved it or they hated it. So I want you to understand what they loved about it. What were the nuggets that they got out of it? I want you to understand why, if they're leading industry in writing that book, I want you to understand the feedback that they're getting about that and understand what are they saying. And then from there, I want you to identify who the top 10 leaders are in that niche. So this may be coupled with what you're seeing in the blog post or what you're seeing in the books, but I need you to know who your competition is and understand why are they winning? What strategies are they using that got them to be winning in the first place? So this is really the first place I need you to get started when you're starting to identify your niche is making that list of all the things you could be doing. Circle the top 3 that you're passionate about, but that also really solves a problem that somebody would pay for to get a solution of. And then I want you to start doing your research on that industry, okay? And we're going to continue the conversation over in my Facebook group, Selling Signature Services with Jerisha Hawk. I invite you to join us over there. So if you as you start doing this work or as you start, maybe additional questions pop up, just head on over to the Facebook group and we can continue the conversation. But one thing is the really thing I want you guys to leave on is understand that you being good at your job and you putting in 40 hours of effort or time into building your business does not equate to you making money. You could work 5 hours and make 10 grand, but you could have been working 40 hours and made nothing. This is not a time for money game anymore. So I really want you to start evolving and moving beyond your current employee mindset when you're thinking about actually building a business, and understand that just because somebody else is not giving you a seat at their table, that does not mean, I need you to believe that you have the capacity to go build your own table. And in this day and age, we have so many resources available to us to go build that table. We have so much access. So I just want to leave you guys with that. But again, if you want to join us over in my Facebook group, I invite you to just pop on in over there. So you can click the link in the title of this description or in the comments below and request access to join. Just answer those 3 quick prompt questions. And then somebody from my team will be, granting you access into our group. So thank you guys for joining and catching the replay. And I will chat with y'all soon. Bye, everyone.